We have some wonderful, fresh, bright faces up here that you guys haven't seen or heard from yet today. I want to turn the mic over to somebody really special to host this next panel. So I'm going to let her introduce herself, but Julie Gunther, please come on up.
Thank you. I'm Dr. Julie Gunther. I opened SparkMD in Boise, Idaho in mid 2014. We're a non-hybrid, so a straight-up direct primary care practice in Boise, Idaho. Dr. Potter, Catherine Potter, is my partner. And I have found my place in direct primary care. So I want to thank Lee for including us in this panel. What sits next to me are a small but amazing band of very fine physicians and direct primary care providers. And what we would like to do as we close this conference is share with you our pearls or our sort of inflection point. So a point in which we really learn something about direct primary care. And these points are going to be varied. And then we'll open things up for questions again. But first I'd like everybody to go down, starting with Dr. Cunningham, and introduce who you are, where you work, and how long you've been open, please.
Sure. My name is Dr. David Cunningham, and I opened Infinity Family Care with my co-founder and partner, Wendy Cohen, who's here at the conference as well. We're in Mansfield, Massachusetts, south of Boston, between Providence and Boston. And we've been open since mid-February, so 8 months now.
Wendy, are you here? Are you in the audience? I can't see anything. Okay, she's getting beverages.
I'm Catherine Potter. I'm also a family physician. As Julie said, I am actually an employed family physician, which is what I'm going to talk about with Julie and her practice. And I joined a little under a year ago. I think I'm coming up on my
October.
Official one-year date.
I'm Jessica Davis. I live in upstate New York. I'm a family doc who does a lot of peds. And I've been open almost 8 years doing DPC straight out of residency.
Hi, my name's Kimberly Legg-Korba. I am from Allentown, Pennsylvania. I recently converted my 13-year-old traditional insurance-bearing fee-for-service practice last January. So we made the decision in September to convert, and we closed our old doors and opened the new doors in January. And we're doing well. So we've only been open 10 months.
Amy Walsh, Raleigh, North Carolina, opened my own DPC almost a year ago.
That was fast. I'm Vance Lassie in Holton, Kansas, a small town, northeast Kansas, and family medicine out in the rural area. I do a real full spectrum practice, includes inpatient, outpatient, and OB. And I've been open for 6 months.
Jeff Gold. I am from the North Shore of Boston in Marblehead, Massachusetts. I opened a DPC practice in February of 2015 after being employed by the big machine of Partners Healthcare up there for about 9 years. Needless to say, not a lot of people like me up there, but I've been open for almost 2 years. February will be 2 years, and we're about 3/4 full, and we're getting there. So thanks for your attention.
So the first thing I'd like to put a little plug in for, if you're not aware, there's a Facebook site. It is private. It's called DPC Docs. Can we open it up again? Is that too hard to do? Okay, so long story short, you can friend anyone here. And then if we're friends on Facebook, we can invite you to join. It's a community of 500 physicians in all stages who want to do DPC or are passionate about it. And it's just chock full of content, information, spreadsheets, things like that. So if you're not aware of that, there's one opportunity for education and some camaraderie when we leave. If you're a member of the AAFP, there's a member interest group that also has a DPC Docs forum, and there's a lot of content there. It's a little tricky to navigate, but that may be a worthwhile place to find more education also. And then, Ms. Carmela, do you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Hi, I'm Carmela Mancini. I'm an internist, and I actually joined Jeff Gold's practice about a year ago.
Awesome. So I have a question for you guys. How many of you would mentor people in the audience who are looking for a mentor? And keep your hand up. How many of you would charge them money to do that? There you go. Yeah. That's the pearl. Oh, I should have been like, no, yeah. So there's a really collaborative community. You can certainly hire and pay people, but there's a lot of people who are just a little bit ahead of where you may be, who have tremendous expertise, who will help. And you've heard from all of them the last day and a half. So I'm going to ask, and if you want to go in order or just as you think of it, I'm going to ask each of you if you'd be willing to share your inflection point or a pearl, something you've learned in the last 6 months to 8 years, where it was really a turning point for you. I'll share very briefly and then I'll shut up. A turning point for me at the 2.5-year mark is I was diagnosed with breast cancer in April. And the learning point for me is how do you survive the startup phase of any business when you're the owner and you have to step away for a second. But when I looked at my books, I wasn't doing a very good job with collections because my heart is big and I thought, oh, they'll get there. And my husband pointed out, if I took the 15 people who owed me $17,000 and basically sent a very compassionate but very firm termination notice, hey, we've got to get this caught up or I've got to move on, what would my practice look like? Could I get rid of my urgent care job? Could I replace those 15 people with people who paid? And my husband, who's very wise, said, if we look at the work you've put in on these 15 people and they left the practice and you replace them with 15 new people, and so 2 of those 15 were now the difficult ones, what would your practice look like? And my epiphany was, oh my gosh, I'm sprinting on the side in these other jobs to support a business model that I've allowed to be compromised. So long story short, my inflection point recently was part of my self-care is actually setting some boundaries in my practice financially to sustain myself and grow the practice with people who not only love me and I provide great care for, but that pay me, and not feeling badly about it. So that was my recent inflection point, and it shouldn't have felt like an epiphany, but it did. So David, I don't know if you want to go first or...
So one of the things that we were just talking about, after being in practice, I'm on the older end of everybody up here, and I've been in practice 20 years come March. In my old practice, we did a really good job of paying attention to all the quality measures. We rated really highly. I was checking all the boxes, trying to recover and recoup every dollar I could. When you switch to a model like this, it's a huge paradigm shift. So I had very strict practice guidelines from a philosophical standpoint, standard of care standpoint, and boundaries with the patients. When you switch to a model like this, you no longer have to pay attention to all the insurance requirements. Now what you're paying attention to is the quality you're providing to the patients. It's just between you and the patient. It's a huge mental shift, and you're collecting a monthly fee, which is a new paradigm shift for the patient. So their expectations and your expectations change. You have to go into that with eyes wide open. What you have to remember is that you can't compromise your practice standards just because they're paying you $50 a month. You're going to have patients that are going to push the envelope. I just had somebody email me before we came in here, a patient. She hasn't been in the office in 6 months. She has a physical that needs to be filled out for work. I went through her chart before I left and came here, and I said, she needs a physical. She's overdue. She just emailed me, I don't have a right to get to your office. I need the form by Monday for my employment. Can you just put the date in today, that you did a physical on me? No way. But you find yourself stopping and thinking, oh my gosh, she might not pay her monthly membership fee next month if I don't do that. You cannot compromise your standards or your limits of how you practice medicine just because this is a new model. You are going to have to work a little harder, and the fact that you're going to be spending more time counseling them, which is the way primary care should be, and we lose that in the old model. But there is a fine line between that and compromising your standards, and people will push the envelope. So just be aware of that. It's very tempting for you to compromise your standards because you are promoting this new model of direct primary care, and you are taking extra money from them every month.
Well, and you feel like, I can just help her out. But then you just go, no, I'm not.
If you wouldn't have done it in the old practice, don't do it in the new practice if it's going to compromise your standard of care.
Yeah.
Okay. That's
When we were opening, we started thinking about, to this point, that it's all about the patient, what's right for the patient. It's all about what's right for the doctor-patient relationship. That's got to be the focus, and that changes the dynamic quite a bit. All of a sudden, you're freeing yourselves from the shackles of all the other bullshit that kept you from being able to focus on that doctor-patient relationship, but it's not always the patient's right.
So to expound on what David said, so the doctor-patient relationship, so what I'm going to do later is I'm going to call her and I'm going to say, look, I can't do that, But let's figure out a way that you can get up to the office. I'll stay an hour later on what day can you come? So we can get you the paperwork you need to keep your job. So those are the things that you have conversations with them about. You don't do what they're asking you to do, like that kind of thing. But that, to expand on what David said, that is the doctor-patient relationship that I'm going to take the time to call her and say, hey, let's figure out when you can get up to the office so we can get this done. We'll bang out this physical and you'll have your paperwork.
Go ahead, David.
I'll go ahead. Just kind of a dry, boring pearl more from the business side of
Crispy
things
pearl?
first.
Yeah.
Yeah, crispy pearl. And this is a spillover from the session next door when I brought it up, working with employers. When Wendy and I started this, working with employer models, trying to figure out how to get in touch with employers and really push this, which is a great way to grow and really something that we want to focus on. We didn't know what we didn't know, and we didn't realize that the employers that you may be asking to make a contribution or take a risk with direct primary care may have a relationship with a broker that, even though that broker is pocketing a good chunk of change every year when the employer is paying a heck of a lot more year over year over year, they still have this very tight relationship and feel very awkward about breaking that. And we didn't realize that because we started working with one broker trying to break these relationships, and it's very hard to do. So that's kind of a dry, crispy pearl from prior session that I kind of came to terms with over the last 8 months. But I think the other thing I would say that's really important throughout the whole journey, and for Wendy and for me, this started a year and a half ago or so at Kansas City, is reach out for support. We cannot do this alone. We are not islands. We may be very geographically spread out, but through Facebook, through just phone calls, I went up and spent a day with Jeff up in Marblehead in Boston, and he was really my inspiration for even getting started and even registering for that Kansas City convention. And then just meeting all the amazing people who are innovators, early adopters, really passionate about making this happen. There is a tremendous amount of support, and to Julie's point, you know us now, you know yourselves. We love talking about this. You cannot shut us up about direct prime. Yeah. That's why we're not giving him a mic right now. So we want to talk, we want to help, we want to share our experiences. Maybe we have strong feelings about one aspect that we did or somebody that we worked with that we really feel would be great, but maybe it wouldn't work for you. Take all that and figure out what works for you, but reach out for help. This is overwhelming, but not impossible, and we are all proof of that. So never stop telling yourself that. And the other thing I would just say is that this saved my life.
Yeah. How many of you feel like it saved your life to be a doctor?
Saved my marriage.
Lots of saving. So Jessica, I saw you grab the
So
mic.
yeah, just to piggyback off that and the need for support, has anybody in here been doing DPC longer than 8 years? I opened January of 2009. So
This is
really
amazing.
before this was a thing.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of getting connected with this group. I'm one of the ones with a couple of people that threw up that DPC Docs Facebook group because I was kind of lonely and out there and looking for that support. And people were finding me, and I wanted to get some community going. And I didn't really know about Josh or all that. Sorry. I was really kind of in my own little bubble in upstate New York. But with the support I got 8 years ago, 9, 10 years ago, I grew out of the ideal micropractice movement, ideal medical practices. A few of you I met years ago from that, which focused on quality care and the doctor-patient relationship. Still mostly insurance-based, but I went off on my own path from that group even and decided to come out of residency, not take insurance because I felt it was the right thing to do. And I just couldn't practice any other way. The burnout from residency, stuff like that, I just decided that my priorities in life were not, if I was going to be a doctor for my career, I needed to do it differently. So I found support from that group. I did my thing. I opened small. I'm an example, if people want to find me afterwards, of all the things that could slow growth or you're doing it wrong. I've done them all. And I'm here 8 years later. So it is, like it's been said, get the support, from people, but you do have to do your own work. We can help, but nobody can do it for you. You have to figure out what your priorities in life are. Make your practice fit your life. Don't try to rearrange to fit somebody else's model, or just because somebody else is doing it and it looks good on paper. It's got to feel right for you. It's got to fit your family, your values. Do you want the big fancy car and house, or do you want to have time with your kids and time to walk in the woods? I spent the last 3 years of my life homeschooling my kids and running my practice. I've done a lot of crazy things. So I'm in New York with all the regulations. I'll go through all the list of things not to do, but I'm doing them, and I'm loving it. So I started in a town where I didn't know anybody. I did my residency in a different part of the state, moved back home, didn't know anybody. I started straight out of residency, so I didn't have that confidence level. I had my second kid soon after I opened. I have focused my practice on peds, and I do vaccines, and I do it in New York where we can't do cheap labs or cheap meds. And I charge an enrollment fee, and I charge a visit fee because I'm in New York. And I do basically everything the opposite of what a lot of people are doing. And I'm making it work.
And here you are.
And it's 8 years. And you can do this. You just got to find your way and check in for reality checks too.
I had a patient this week look at me and say, Dr. Gunther, I want you to know you are enough. And so, Dr. Jessica, what your patients are telling you is you are enough.
Yeah.
So, yeah. You can get this idea that you have to have a DEXA scan or a CPAP. The more you can offer is great. It's a value proposition. But never forget that great primary care and that human connection, it's not happening. And I say all the time, when your competition doesn't answer their phone, it's not that hard to be 10% better. So so don't pressure yourself into really thinking, oh my gosh, I have to be this amazing business conglomerate. Like, be a great doctor that's accessible, and people will pay you because it differentiates itself.
Yes, and the flexibility, I'll pass this on, but don't be afraid to change. I've changed so many things over 8 years. In the beginning, I tweaked things after every patient. I would change a form, I would change my schedule, I've changed DMRs 3 times, I've changed lots of things to fit my vision and goals, and I've stayed true to that, and that's what I think makes the difference.
Well, because Carmela and Dr. Catherine have very unique perspectives on decisions of, I want to open my own practice, or what does this look like? And am I going to join and practice share? Am I going to be an employee? So I wonder, and Dr. Amy, I don't want to squish if you're having an epiphany moment. Okay, yeah, so I don't know if Dr. Catherine or Carmela want to.
So I think I'm a little bit unique, except for maybe Josh's practice. I'm not aware of any others. Are there any others that have true employees? Anyway,
I don't know.
So I wanted to talk about my decision process in that. So I started looking at DPC probably about 2 years ago, and I think, like all of us in this room, disenchanted with the typical system. I worked in a community health center. We did full scope medicine, delivered babies. I worked in the ICU. We were doing Q3 to Q4 call shifts up to 36 hours. And I had done that most of the time since I had graduated from residency. So functionally, I had been on a resident schedule for almost 10 years. And I was tired and burned out. And I think that some of that factored into my decision. And actually, a good friend of mine put me on the trail of Julie, who was in the same town I was already living in. And I started talking to her, and Julie was more than happy to help me open my own practice. And that's initially we had kind of a cursory conversation. How much money on average does it take? What am I looking at? What do I need to start looking at doing? And then another mutual friend of ours kind of slapped us both on the head and said, you guys should just join up, right? And Julie's like, oh. And so we started looking at what does that look like? And it's a bit of an uncharted territory. And the way that we have it set up, I think, is similar to what Josh has done, just based on the last panel discussion. But it's a bit of an eat what you kill. So I'm a true employee. I'm paid by Julie, but I'm paid based on how many patients that I have on my panel. And again, we help each other out, and there's been some extenuating circumstances. But I make a percentage of that monthly patient fee. But the flip side of that is I don't pay our nurse, I don't pay the rent, I don't pay, or the mortgage, I don't pay the electrical bills when we have to call a plumber, I don't pay any of that. And I think for me, part of it is you need to look at your personality from many aspects. So I definitely can lead. I know 100% I could have done this on my own. I have a business minor. I'm business savvy. I definitely could have done the business aspect of it, but I am risk averse. And for me, taking less of a risk where I don't necessarily have a high salary, but I'm not taking on that debt, that initial debt to start a practice, that was important to me. The other thing was I was truly burned out. I functionally had been a resident for about 10 years, and I didn't want that extra stress of coming up with a business plan, opening an LLC, finding a business, a place to do business, all of that stuff. So it was appealing to me to look at joining Julie. But the other things that I think are important are, yes, I can lead, I could do this, but I can also follow, and I don't mind following. And so I think, especially on this panel, we have a lot of really strong personalities, and you really have to look at, are you okay at being an employee? So for example, I know Julie picks the EMR, Julie picks the monthly membership fee, and there are a lot of things that she asks for my input, but at the end of the day, she is the business owner, and she will make that decision. And I know that, and I'm okay with that because I am an employee. But if you are someone that truly feels, I need to be making this decision, you need to really look at whether being an employed physician in this model is a good fit. And you can make things work, but just keep that in mind. I think it's really important that we all know our strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
Say something to that.
Yeah.
No. So for the next 30 minutes, I would echo all of that, but only add that you can lead from behind. And as the employer of an employer-employee relation, I lean on those doctors for all kinds of their skill sets. You know, in the book, Think Fast, Think Slow, in our relationship in the office, I'm the think fast guy, and Doug's the think slow guy. He's my Jiminy Cricket. I run my bad ideas past him, and he filters them out. And it's a hand-in-glove, essential relationship. Even though I was the first, the second person is essential. And the TED Talk, how to form a movement, it's the first people to follow are the true leaders. We're just crazy. You know, we were out there. It's you guys making a decision that we're not as crazy as we think we are and come over and add to our side. So your leading from behind is just as important as being the guy taking the arrows too. So.
And Josh is so much my mentor that I decided to emulate his haircut, actually. Get a little look. Yeah.
And then I think the
yeah.
other thing is you still need to have a good relationship, right? So you need to look at that person you're thinking about joining. Can you be their employee? I mean, are they going to be like,
handle their
no,
dysfunction?
You need, well.
For real, yeah.
Well, and it's different, right? And I think somebody said, oh, you're yin and yang, and it's true. Like, Julie's like, let's go do it. We're going to do it. Here's the idea. And I'm like, no, I need this. Yeah, I need you to do this for me, Julie. Can you order this for me?
Can you focus?
No, Julie, did you do this? Like, 10 minutes later, I need you to do that. So I think it works well, and our personalities complement. The other thing that I think this one is more difficult to tell, but listening to our patients, when I see her patients or she sees mine, what we hear a lot is, oh, you guys are very similar in your practice style. So our management style, our administrative styles are very different, but what our patients see are very similar, and that is easier for them when they can't see whichever provider is their provider. I think it makes it easier because they're not getting a totally different message. They're not getting, oh, you can have 300 Norco a month, and then they come and see me. No, we don't do any Norco. So it's fairly similar. So if you can be roughly on the same page, I think that's helpful. Or I don't do anything alternative, and I'm only doing acupuncture. I mean, I think that would be difficult. You might be able to make it work, but if you're going to kind of shift patients, I think that's important.
Well, and I told Dr. Catherine, I had someone contact me about 3 months ago, and with all due respect, if he's in this audience, I apologize, but it was, I want to come join your practice next year. I would like a salary of $150,000 to $180,000. I plan to grow my DPC practice, and then in 3 years, I'll open my own. Okay, no. Like, no. That's like, can I have your child? And I mean, the whole thing is just ridiculous. I want no risk. I want income security. I want you to mentor me, and then I'm going to leave and sort of compete with you and be in the newspaper. I was just, so if you're looking at joining or starting your own practice, you're going to have to make some compromises. And when you come in, you have to, Catherine came in very willing to offer a tremendous amount to the business, and the timing ended up being very fortuitous. But it's a very unique personality, either direction, to be able to join or to be, because you still have to be risk tolerant, an innovator thinker, and problem solver. So.
And I think for us, it really was, like Josh said in the last meeting, you'd rather have the right person at the wrong time. And Julie was not planning on
I was not
adding
going to
a
hire
partner.
till now.
Yeah. So this was about the time, so we're about
Yeah.
a year ahead. And then I just have one other
Yeah.
thing to say was, you talk about, and I think, Josh, you talked about, well, why would I want to see more than 400 patients and the salary cap and all of that? You still protect yourself. I still have a contract that basically says if my panel's over 600 patients, then we renegotiate the pay, and my salary cap's at a certain amount. And the lawyer actually said, "This is the weirdest contract I've ever seen." I was like, "Okay, but do you see anything wrong with it?" And he's like, "Nope." And I'm like, "All right, let's do it." So we're set on that. So just keep those things in mind. It definitely can be done. It's just a different way to look at it.
Yeah. And Carmela has a
So my situation is even more different than that. So I actually am an internist, like I said, but I was in hospital medicine. So I didn't have any prior, besides residency, of doing outpatient medicine. But I knew I could not do hospital medicine anymore, and I knew I could not, join a typical primary care practice, because that's just basically the same, issues and why I was leaving hospital medicine. And Jeff and I had known each other for a little while, and I had heard that he was doing his own thing, is how I heard it. And so I thought, I got to contact him and find out what this thing is. And so he basically told me about direct primary care, and I thought, oh, this is fantastic. I definitely could see myself doing this. But I didn't want to be an employee ever again. So we had talked about different ways we could make it work. Would I be an employee of his? Would I be a partner? All sorts of things. And for us, what it came down to is I was going to be my own entity. He was going to be his own entity. But we would market together and cover for each other. And from the outside looking in, it would look like we were one practice, which definitely has its challenges. But for us, it worked. And that's how we do it. People think they probably think I'm your employee, I would think. Okay.
Yeah, I think for me, when her and I first started talking, I actually didn't want to be an employer. I wanted somebody that I could have a collegial working relationship with. I wanted a female physician, to be honest. Most of my practice beforehand were mostly males, so I wanted to have that marketability to females or males who preferred a female physician. And I had to think, as a family physician, would I be okay with an internist who couldn't do pediatrics and couldn't take care of toddlers? And I just knew that it was more worth it to me to have somebody like her with me and figure out the rest later. Than sit around and wait for a family doctor to come in and want to be employed. Now I want to start hiring employees and blow things up more. But no, it just for us made sense. But yeah, a lot of people do think that she's my employee, and I'm pretty quick to correct them and say we're actually very much equal.
I think it just really depends on what your personal situation is and where you are in life and what your needs are and what your goals are. I mean, I think that's really what it boils down to, whatever works for you.
Yeah, a bunch of us were talking, so my challenge to all of you who aren't open yet is between now and when we conclude in 12 or 18 minutes, I challenge you to write one sentence on a piece of paper, which is, what do you want? Because all the questions people are asking, how much should I charge? Where should I open? What should I do? How big should my panel be? It hinges on, what do you want? What do you have? What do you need? And that may sound very, esoteric or whatever, but if you can't, Jeff's got it.
I want to go last.
Okay. Okay, good. Okay. So, and we can all expound on that, but it's business plan, mission statement, blah, blah, blah. What do you want? And it's probably harder than you think. Or maybe not. And leaving the system is not, what do you want? That's not a vision, right? Not to be treated like dog poo. Well, maybe that is a vision.
So I think what I was going to say, Julie, sort of follows that. And once you decide and once you write that sentence about what you want, do your homework and do a lot of it and do it again and go search it out, because there is so much information out there and there's so many people willing to help. The more you know, the better chance you have to get what you want.
Yeah.
Do your homework.
Yeah. Mr. Vance, what's your pearl inflection point? I have to brag on you for a sec. I think you still have first and only honors of being a DPC doctor who's figured out how to do OB and delivered a baby. And hospital medicine.
Inpatient, yeah.
So, yeah, he's kind of rocking it.
I guess that's what I was going to talk about. I mean, I'm doing that. It's a little unique, but part of that's by necessity. I'm out in the wilderness, and you got to do everything. I'm just curious. Just anybody? Sorry. Oh, wait, hang on, really seriously. First of all, can we give it up for Lee Gross for putting this together?
Good job, Vance. Yeah, that's good.
Sorry, I
think
didn't mean to
you made him
distract,
blush.
but that needed to be done.
You made him blush. You
I
can
know.
put
Look
that.
at him. He's over there
There's your
blushing.
street cred.
Secondly, it's an honor to be actually even asked to share anything, and it's really an honor, finally, really, for Josh to be on stage with me, and he really likes that. That's something that's been something he's wanted to do for a long time. Yeah, bucket list, checked it off. Shared the stage with Vance. So just curious, anybody here rural? Anybody small town, like real small? Yeah, 4,000-ish? No? Yeah, we got a few. Sweet. How many of y'all do OB? How many of y'all want to do OB? We got one getting ready to do OB, I know. Are you doing it already or are you about to? You got 3 going already. Ooh. Nice. Okay, just curious. Now, and this is where everybody, I stomp on toes, including everybody up here. Who does inpatient care? Who does inpatient care in their former life? We got some, yeah, but then a lot of people quit. Now, those of my friends who quit for a good reason. The system, I don't have to tell you guys what happened. The system forced us out. We couldn't do both. There was no time. There was no money. You were in a hurry. Okay, I'm on a total soapbox. This is not what you asked me to do.
It is. No, be on
I'm
your
sorry,
soapbox.
but
be very high on your soapbox.
you don't have time. You don't have time on the inside.
Yeah.
On the outside, you have time. So do it. I mean, take care of your patients if you can. I know it's not always easy. Hospitals are a fight. That brings me to the pearl.
Yeah.
Okay, so I made it around. One of my pearls is what Doug, are you in here, brother? Doug talked about. He's back. Yeah, he's back selling books, which are of value at half the cost. What I want to say is, what he said is, there's going to be haters, and the pearl is that, like, you just have to understand that people don't get it, and it's so like crazy, super obviously logical that this is a good thing, and all of us see that, and I can't explain that. But people will, it's different, and they're scared, and hospitals will fight you on everything, and even whenever you're making them money, saving them money, they're not paying your salary, your insurance, none of that anymore. You're still using them for stuff, and they're making money without paying you, but then they still hate on you and make life miserable. And so that's pearl number one, is they won't understand. Do your best to just continue being disruptive. You can't be disruptive and have friends. So keep doing that, and then eventually, they'll love you when they realize you are doing something good, I guess. Okay, so don't let them. I mean, obviously, right?
Yeah, but they might hate you, but patients love what you do.
Yeah.
There's a huge difference.
You'll win. I mean, in the end, I think,
How did you not get economically credentialed? When I first left my decredentialed, I should say. When I first left my big organization, I was looking into the option of continuing to do both private practice and do hospital inpatient care to provide the continuity to my patients, because that's what they really wanted. Right. The thing is, no hospital around would credential me for admitting privileges because I did not belong to the big organization that owned the hospital.
Right. Now, see, it can always be done, and don't think about things like roadblocks. Just think them as it's just a detour. I mean, you still get where you're going, just go a different way. Don't ever give up on whatever your dream is and where you're going. Yeah. And it's going to be regional. And the issue with that is, where I am, there's only one hospital, there's not enough doctors, and when people are in the hospital, they need someone to take care of them. So I kind of can do that. But the way I did it in this case was, and in the hospital, to be fair, I mean, they want to make sure they're going to get paid. That's really the end of it. And so when you opt out of Medicare, they look at you like your hair's on fire. They don't know what in the world, what, you know. You say, look, you just don't charge them professional fees. You still charge Medicare all of the facility fees and gouge away like you always do, and it'll go onto their insurance or their Medicare or whatever. It doesn't affect me. My patients pay me every month. They've already paid me for their inpatient care, so you don't have to send me a bill. I won't send you a bill. They just don't bill professional fees. They just bill the facility fees. And when I told them that, they're like, oh, okay. And then I got credentials. I mean, I got privileges, yeah, so.
I don't know the lady the doctor who just asked that question, where are you from?
I'm from northern Wisconsin, Rhinelander, Wisconsin.
How big's the hospital?
50 beds.
Okay, so Lance was telling us last night that his hospital's 12 beds. I live in an area where we've got hundreds of beds. They'll never let me do any kind of admissions because they have hospitalists.
Correct.
So I really think it's regional. And the bigger the hospital is, the less likely they are to let any family doctor, whether DPC or fee-for-service, do any inpatient. So,
never say never. How do you know? What if all your patients signed a big old petition and put it on the news? Yeah, this place won't let my doctor see me. I mean, never say never. There's always a way.
You can do, yeah.
Yeah, call the newspaper.
And
Call
you
the
can-
newspaper
yeah.
and say, hey, editorial, why won't the hospital let me see my patients there?
For free.
Oh my God, we don't want bad press. Okay, let her in.
Well, and you
Yeah.
can do
If I can
other,
add-
yeah, you could do other radical things, like if they absolutely won't budge and you're passionate about it, bill a physician fee, look at what it's compensated, and credit it back to the patient. I mean, you can get real radical. Make sure Phil says it's okay. I don't know, all that stuff's weird. But you can get real radical to prove a point, and eventually, I mean, that's great marketing, right? But if you're really passionate about it, want to make it work, you may have to help them get there. But you have so much more cards in your pocket, so to speak, because you're willing to do different things. So
One
Bill?
concept, too, when talking to the hospitals is look at it from their perspective, too. One thing about DPC that all the data that's coming out seems to support is that there's a lower readmission rate. Well, remember, the hospitals are partially compensated by readmission rates. We actually when I went to my CEO of my hospital recently, I actually talked to him. I said, you should really love us. We're going to make you more money. You're going to get paid more per admission. And you should have seen his little eyes light up.
But they don't always, sometimes you can say that all day long. They don't really get real friendly until you actually prove it to them.
Yeah.
They have to actually see the money, yeah.
Yeah, what I did end up doing, though, is I did end up just doing a social visit for my patients that got admitted, and that's all I could
And
do.
I think most everybody that does DPC will at least do that, yeah.
So I kind of want to end with like a little bit of a motivational talk. So I was a hockey player growing up. I've probably had my head banged quite a few times. And I was captain of my team in high school, and I've probably been waiting to give this speech for 30 years now. But here's the thing. This is not a job. Medicine is a calling. If we wanted to make more money, we wouldn't have given up, 7, however many years of our lives while all our peers were out, working on Wall Street, making money, blah, 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 okay? So we were able to go to good schools, get into medical school, fight the fight. If we had to take a year off like I did and reapply and do all that stuff, you just did it while everybody else was out partying, making money, doing whatever, living their life and starting their nest egg. And how can you not do this? Seriously. You put yourself through residency, medical school to be a doctor. And I don't know if anybody's seen the movie Miracle about, the 1980s Olympic team that won. Who the hell thought those guys were going to beat the Russians? Okay? So we're sitting in this room, and yes, we have all these powers that be that don't want us to succeed because the broken system is working for them. But you guys got here somehow in some way. So why stop now? Why not do, however old you are, whatever debt you're in? You've been in debt before. Who cares?
Yeah.
Seriously.
You're never going to pay it off, so just take
mean,
out more. That's what I did. It's never going away.
Get comfortable being uncomfortable. You've done it You've done it your whole life.
Yeah.
Who else worked 36-hour shifts with no sleep, 72 hours? We did. So stop making excuses. Be the pebble in the shoe that is going to drive these people crazy, okay? And just don't let up. Be relentless. Like Vance said, find a way around. Dave and I and Wendy and Carmela, we are in one of the worst states. Romney Care is from us, and I say this all the time. Everybody thinks that the opiate addiction is the worst addiction in this country. No, it's the addiction to health insurance, okay? And it's up for us to break it. No one else is going to do it for you. If you're waiting for your politicians, your policymakers, all these wonks that want data and data and data, do patients give a shit about data? No.
Yeah.
They care about whether you're doing a good job taking care of them. So fight the fight, take it back, know that there's a whole group of people up here that want to help, okay? And just do it. Like Bo Jackson said, just do it.
Mic drop. Yeah, questions, awesome. We'll start over here because I saw Vance say go.
Now I feel better.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So, just a few comments from someone who's been in practice 26 years and has seen the evolution of health insurance from indemnity to PPO to HMO, back to PPO and ACA and ACO.
That alphabet soup is killing us, man.
So I can tell you, in our case, and we've basically been practicing concierge/DPC care medicine from a clinical standpoint for 26 years. And 30-minute follow-ups, 1-hour new patients, scheduling 1 patient per time slot, no physician extenders in between the patient and the physician. And for 26 years, let me tell you, it works. We have less than 10 admissions per year in our office. Now, that comment that somebody made earlier about hospitals liking DPC docs because they reduce readmissions, well, I'd like to take that a step further. We reduce admissions.
Yeah, that's right.
Next, I want to request that every internist, family practice, and pediatrician in this conference seriously give this business model serious thought, because this is the future of primary care. We are not going to be continued to be able to sustain the kind of practice we want to practice based on the level of care we want to give, given what is being thrown at us at this point. The reason it's becoming difficult for me, or it is hard for me, is because, we're in Plano, Texas, and I mean that is corporate America like you wouldn't believe. Everyone has wonderful health insurance, but the norm is not DPC. The norm is commercial insurance. And this is where we have to make a change. We need to make the norm DPC and commercial insurance physicians the minority. And I thank each and every one of you for showing us your humbleness, integrity, and genuineness to help every one of us out. And I sincerely mean that on behalf of myself and hopefully everybody else in this building. So thank you.
Thank you. So right there is a whole ton of collegiality. And just being decent to each other is a huge frame shift for medicine, right? We eat our own. So thank you. And that is another thing that DPC has had to offer, is it's super fun to be around a whole bunch of passionate, decent, mostly sane physicians. Ish. For the people who have questions, will you just tell us your name and where you're from also? So, yeah, go ahead.
Manvinder Kainth, Family Medicine here in Irving, Texas. Could each of you tell us which EHR system you use, if you use one, and practice management system? Are they all interconnected? Do you use telemedicine with like e-visits as well, like video chat? I think that's a big question that all of us have, is how in the world to attack that beast.
Yes, and that DPC docs page, that question's been asked a lot, so there's a whole bunch of different perspectives because the catchment of folks doing DPC is a little wider. Lee, are we allowed to just go down and answer that question? Yeah, okay. So,
I use Atlas MD because I have a man crush on Josh. But no, he yeah, he really, just inspired me. And I mean, I won't get into it here, but I have a really funny story about how I heard about DPC in the first place that involves him. And we do all the telehealth. I mean, most of it is pretty much built right in to the EMR. And for me, I like tech, but I'm not a techie guy. So for me, like the simplicity of it and in the ease of use is great. But I think the beauty, again, of this model is there's stuff out there now that there's tons of stuff to choose from to find what's right for you and the way you practice medicine. And it's a great product, though.
We are the same.
I also use Atlas with regard to electronic and e-visit stuff. My patients really dig texting me and emailing me, and I dig it because 70% of stuff they don't need to come in for. So, and what I really like about Atlas from that, and I'm not just a fanboy, it was built for this, and so it does it well. When they email you or text you, it goes right into their chart, so I don't have to do any additional charting, and everybody knows charting sucks, so that's good. From the e-visit thing, I don't do video stuff. I offer it, but nobody wants it. So it's there if they want to do it, but it's never even come to that. So there you go.
I stuck with Epic. I'm kidding.
I was like, how did that work?
No.
How can you make that work? Is there a mobile app?
No, I did not. I went with Atlas because it came with no instructional manual and I know how to use it.
I do Atlas because I'm a tech idiot.
I use Elation and Hint, and I use this thing called Intake Q that does online scheduling and intake forms. I'm on my third EMR in 8 years. I've tried a lot of different techie things. I make it work. Video, I offered it for a while. Nobody used it. I have patients email me pictures and video clips if it's necessary.
Yep.
Yeah, we use Atlas, and I would say the same thing. Have you ever done a video call?
No.
I do phone visits,
Yeah.
but
Skype visits.
Okay.
yeah, I've never had anyone that wants to Skype. They just want to send me a picture of the rash. I don't
Yeah.
find that it adds anything
The rash
to
or the
see
cut?
them versus just talk to them.
Yeah.
Thanks for putting me on the spot, sitting right next to Josh. We use Inlight and Hint and Acuity Scheduling, which is a standalone scheduling app, which has been really helpful. I think it's, like everybody said, find what works for you, find what feels natural and comfortable, and what allows you to document what's right for the doctor-patient interaction and what's going to help you or your partner or whoever else is helping you take care on the team, take care of those patients the next time, because that's really the essence of it. It should facilitate the thought process and the communication about what's relevant, not what somebody else is telling you need to document. And no, we've never done a video virtual visit. We do a lot of phone visits, a lot of stuff on essentially texting through Twistle, home visits, but we just haven't had any video visit necessary yet.
Josh, what do you use? Are you on ECW?
Yeah, Cerner. Yeah.
Cerner. Prime Suites. That's the worst one. Prime Suites.
I would echo that. Get the tool that's right for you. I mean, that's the most important thing. Everybody's different. I'm an Apple fanboy to the nth degree, and not everybody loves Apple because it's not the right thing for them. So always find the best tool and then drop it.
You don't want a Samsung
in front of
Galaxy
everybody.
fire
Yeah.
in your pocket.
Uh-huh.
One
We're
bit
exploding with
yeah.
Samsung.
One bit of advice I got, or someone had posted, or maybe I said it, I don't know, is as you define your vision, find a mentor. Go visit the mentor's clinic, like extract everything from their brain, and just copy somebody. So if you find a doctor or clinic that is doing exactly what you envision doing, have no shame in stealing, and ask them what their technological solutions are and how their phone tree works. Like there's a ton of options, but figure out your vision, find a mentor, and then stalk them and do what they've had success in doing, right?
Can I add something really quick? Julie talks about stalking. We share as much as we can on Facebook. Forms, marketing ideas, I mean, presentations, yeah, PowerPoints, I've shared mine. We share as much as we can, so. Yeah. Yeah, well. But don't be afraid to ask, there's nothing that is not shareable.
I'm gonna.
You guys overshare.
Go ahead.
The benefit of that much sharing is it also saves you a fortune. How many dollars have I spent starting my practice on legal fees? 0. Because these guys are like, hey, check this form out. A lawyer made it for me. You're like, all right.
And Phil is an incredible expert for this movement. He was the Robert Wood Johnson Scholar. Where are you? Anyway, I should post his address on Facebook, and we should all send him like weekly gifts. I want to do something really crazy to embarrass him. But go ahead.
Ann Jeffords from Salt Lake City, and we had dinner together a year ago, so thank you.
Oh, hi. That was
you.
farm
You
to
grabbed
table.
me.
That was very
You grabbed
good.
me. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Do we need an EMR?
No.
I don't think so. How radical is that?
We were just talking about this
Yeah.
the other day because, 20 years ago when I started practice, we only had charts.
Right.
And we did telemedicine through phone calls.
Right.
And we didn't have I didn't have my smartphone to look up allergies, med list, or to send the prescription in through texting or email. We called the pharmacy. When the patient called, we said, okay, what are your allergies? I don't remember from your chart. What meds are you on? So you could still do telemedicine. It's just going to be the old-fashioned way. So anyway, that's my opinion.
I have a slightly different take. I think it's really, really helpful to have electronic medical records. EMR, EHRs really can be transformative in terms of the communication with patients and focusing on chronic care management. It has been so horrifically burdened with all the other stupid stuff, right, that we don't have to go into the alphabet soup about, but means everything, right, that it has made it a completely useless piece of junk stuck in the mud. But when we get the essence of what's important about the patient interaction and the communication so that we can track things over time, that we can graph things for patients, we can show them what's meaningful, we can communicate as a team wherever you are, because that's one of the things that's really important to remember. Jessica was homeschooling her kids while she was practicing medicine. It could be tough to carry around 342 charts. Right? So if you need access to information at your fingertips when you're at home or you're on vacation or you're with the kids or you're, wherever you are, that's really critical to have that information at your fingertips. So I would encourage you to look at what's out there before making a blanket decision about it, because I think you'll be surprised at the state of the art.
I've been looking. I'm on Cerner now, and I absolutely hate it.
Oh,
I've looked at Elation. I've looked at amazing charts.
Yeah, there's a doc in Boise, Dr. Andrea Axtell, who started out very, very, very lean, leased a tiny space, got a free table from the hospital, then told me about it, and started out with a WordPerfect document and an Excel spreadsheet. And she said when she got to about 100 patients, she was going to transition, but she just had a file of, and hopefully security, and a file of each patient's thing. So, but yeah.
The only thing I wanted to add, just to be careful, Massachusetts, being the regulatory machine we are, if you don't use an EMR, you have to do a certain number of CME credits on technology in order to stay licensed in the state. So definitely check with your medical board before you make that decision, because you need your license.
So we're going to do one more question. I'm so sorry. But I think most of us are willing probably to kind of pool over here when things conclude for people whose questions didn't get answered. So,
Belen Amat from Grand Rapids, Michigan. If you could travel through time to your pre-DPC self, what advice, now after you've learned all this, what advice do you have for yourself?
So has anybody ever body surfed? I've done it once, like capably. Okay, like nobody. Okay, so that's a bad analogy. Well, I'll use it anyway. So there's all this motivational crap on Facebook, Pinterest, whatever. Go in the direction of the dreams, live the life you've imagined. And it was all whatever. And as I near my 40s, it seems like that's just not going to pan out. When I started DPC, what I didn't understand at all is when you have a vision and you move in that direction, the ground does swell and weird, spooky things that challenge your spirituality, if you're me, happen, and doors open. And it sounds crazy and you won't know till you get there, but it's like the one time my body surfed right and I realized, like, okay, I am being propelled by something because I did this right. So the day before my bilateral mastectomy, Patch Adams walked into my office to see what I was doing. That does not happen. I don't know. I know Patch Adams now. And he didn't know I had cancer. And we ended up laying on the front lawn in front of my building doing a blessing. Like, there are universal gifts, and this is crazy and voodoo and not evidence-based, and I apologize. But what I would tell my pre-DPC self is, you're amazing, you're smart, you're capable. If someone can start an LLC for a taco stand in a snow shack, you can start an LLC and be a great doctor. And opportunities will avail themselves to you if you're earnestly going in the direction you imagine. So that's cheesy, but just figure out what you want and do it. And that's my, yeah.